Okay, gents, the show is all yours.
Whoa! Welcome to Black Republican, Black Democrat tonight. It's Wednesday, October the 5th. It's my sister's birthday, so that's how I know today's date.
Happy birthday.
And I like to say that so
Jamar's
people
sister.
don't know that, think that it's a rerun. Because we're back. We've been back for a while.
My name's AK Kamara.
I'm Jamar.
How you doing, bro?
What's up, bro? How you doing?
It's been good, man. Weather hasn't been too terrible.
No, weather's been pretty
every
decent.
day.
Weather's been pretty decent.
Every day it's above 60, 65. I'm
it's a blessing.
blessed in Minnesota.
And especially in October and hopefully into November, if you get 63, 65, 70, I'm loving it.
You can't complain.
You better not complain.
None of that. Now, my wife's birthday is coming up here on Sunday, and since this is the last show we'll do, shout out to the Schmoopy. Happy birthday to my baby. I love you. We're gonna do something fun. We're actually going to like a wine tasting chef type of thing.
A wine what?
Yeah, like a wine tasting chef type of deal. Yeah, it'll be some good stuff, man. Yeah.
You can get drunk at home.
Yeah, but this
you can get drunk with some cheese at home.
This is comped. This is a gift to us. So yeah, it's gonna be a great time.
You can buy some wine and cheese and crackers and get drunk at home.
You want to know what's really funny? So we've been married 18 years.
Yeah.
Right. We don't really do like a gift thing. Like,
what do you do? What, y'all Mormons?
No, I mean we just buy whatever we want whenever we want.
Okay.
We grown, we ain't got kids. So
okay. I'm just saying. I'm just wondering.
Like there's nothing I can really surprise. Like I get her gifts every once in a while, but yeah, shout out to that. We have a great show.
Hey guys. Yeah. Sorry to cut in, but do you want me to cut out that part where you said Schmoopy?
No, that is the name. You want to know?
Oh.
So not baby or bae.
All right,
no,
love.
Schmoopy. And here's the funny thing is
Snoopy?
that if Schmoopy.
Oh, I ain't gonna get that.
And here's the funny thing is that I don't know where I heard this, but I started calling to her when we first started dating. And I was watching Seinfeld, and there's this whole episode where I think that George or Seinfeld, Jerry, they call their significant other Schmoopy. And so that was after the fact. Like I honestly, like maybe it was on in the background or something like that. But make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you hit that share button. We got a great show lined up for today. We're going to be talking immigration. It's something that we really haven't had a whole lot of conversation before on the show. So we're looking to really get into some really great conversation surrounding immigration in the United States. It's kind of been at the top of a lot of news cycles with DeSantis, with Abbott. There's been a lot of conversation about it. And so make sure to hit that button. Also, if you like what it is that we do, if you want to support our show, please visit our Linktree. That's Linktree/BRBD. That way you can get connected with all of our socials. Follow me on TikTok. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on our Instagram. And it also is going to allow you to click on a subscribe link to Patreon. That's how you actually support the show.
We need it.
Become a subscriber. Everything that we get from contributions goes 100% back to this show to produce these episodes. And if you want to help keep political discourse alive and have it be relatively civil, please consider becoming a subscriber to our Patreon. So make sure to do that. Also, want to tell everybody there's a place that you can go when you're feeling thirsty.
Yeah, well,
maybe
like right now.
Like right now, you got a little bit of that cotton mouth building up.
Yeah, because I've been smoking marijuana.
Maybe you want to get some type of medicinal.
I've been smoking marijuana.
CBD.
Oh,
CBD in Minnesota. We have Delta 9 now these days.
It's not legal.
Or maybe you need some postage. Where are you gonna go, man?
To the Weber Mart.
To the where?
To the Weber Mart.
The Weber Mart. Please check out the Weber Mart. They have been a sponsor of the show forever. 1701 44th Avenue over north. Kevin is a great guy. Stop in. And honestly, without having sponsors like Kevin, we're not able to actually do the show. So please do patronize that business. Also, I kind of focused last week on starting up a new business, but I want to kind of go back to something, especially when we're talking about some of these scary times that we're living in regards to what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and all this talk of nuclear stuff. Yeah. Make sure that you have your end-of-life issues set up and figured out. And Dennis Smith, he's someone that supports our mission.
Yes.
Isn't that a great segue?
It is.
He's someone that supports our mission of helping keeping political discourse alive. So please check out Dennis Smith Law Office. He's going to be able to help you figure out what you need to get done for your wills, a living trust, a healthcare directive. Give him a call at 612-889-3971 or shoot him an email, dennis@smithlaw.com. smith.com, dennis@smithlaw.com. Let him know, and also Kevin over at the Weber Mart, that Black Republican, Black Democrat sent you.
You better. You know, see, you're really polite, and that's probably the conservative nature in you. See, me, when I'm telling the folks about Patreon and all that, just tell them the truth. Give us some money, damn it, we need it. We black and poor. We need the money. Support their show, damn it. If you like us, give us some money. Don't give us that $5 shit. Give us some money. No. Yeah, you know. No, you know what? So many things have been happening around the country, but especially here in Minnesota. But that's why we brought on tonight's great guest. But quickly, you know, I want to talk about around here in Minneapolis how the murder rate is still rising. We're at about 67 now, and we had 2 more shot last night, so we could be at about 68 or 69. And I think that it's becoming way too politicized, because when you look at a lot of the commercials, you got Republicans blaming Walz for the crime and things of that nature. Then you got Walz. I seen the Walz commercials today saying that Jensen was not safe for Minnesota. He's not, but not safe for Minnesota. And so I guess in a sense blaming Jensen for the crime. You know, we got to stop politicizing crime and sit down and have real dialogue about how to, you know, maybe not eradicate, but, you know, curb, you know, or curtail some of the gun violence that were happening in the city and around this damn country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've talked about it on the show a lot, especially last year with having a high of a murder rate as Minneapolis had. I won't say that you shouldn't politicize crime. I think that you need to be able to hold people accountable, decision makers, leaders, and when there's failures, you have to talk about it. But as we've talked about on the show, what are your solutions? Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, there's this terrible crime rate, and look at this person, it's all their fault. Well, what are you going to do to change it? Like honestly, having that conversation, and that sometimes is lacking. And I think that there's a perception that people don't want to deal with tough questions and tough answers, and I think that's actually not the case. I think people do want to talk about what do we actually have to do. If you go out into the community, I mean, especially for yourself, you've been working really hard on a handful of campaigns where you're out and you're talking to people. People want answers. They don't want to hear the platitudes, because they know that really means nothing. So at the end of the day, I think that it matters about the solutions. Yes, we're in a political cycle, man. Everything's going to be politicized about who's responsible for what, but ultimately we want to hear solutions. And I think that there's some good solutions out there by a lot of people that are running. It's just up to them to get it out there. Oh yeah, Republicans have some.
I haven't heard any of them. All I've heard is Walz failed, which is dumb, because when you look at, you know, it's going to be hard to convince people that, you know, he's failed when you look at the low unemployment rate, when you look at he's put money into your pockets during COVID, when you look at he protected a lot more folks than during the epidemic than I think that folks expected. I think that it's going to be hard to combat that. And see, the Jensen campaign sounded more like Trumpers, just flat out blaming, you know. And then this easy, their one quick answer is always, well, you know, we're going to make your neighborhood safer. We're going to be tough on crime. Well, you've been saying that for 50 years. What that means is, Negroes, you better run.
So I've actually heard about that. They have a 10-point plan. You can go look at it. Oh,
please.
On Jensen's website.
I see. That's what I'm saying. The same thing with Mitt Romney was running. Same thing with Mitt Romney. They were saying how nice he was. I said, well, hell, then ask MTV to trail him. I don't need your. If your 10-point plan, I need you to give me that elevator speech of saying how you're gonna curtail crime.
It specifically lays out what you do. Like, there's specific crimes that you have to charge. You have to be harder on enforcement in regards to what those crimes are. You know, we talk about bail reform. That's been a conversation that's came up a lot, and making sure that prosecutors are actually following what the law says and giving or taking away, I should say, some of the brevity that they have. That's, if you don't like it, that's fine. But those are the solutions that are being proposed versus kind of what's going on right now. But I think that it's important to always keep in mind that you want to be able to actually have conversation about the politics that exists, and that there's differing opinions, just like this next topic that we're going to get into.
But let's bring, look, and secondly, before we bring in our guests, but let's think about this, though. I don't know how you actually blame Walz. Like, I wouldn't blame a Republican. How do you specifically blame him for the rise in crime when this is a guy who publicly and privately has fought and brought some money to make the police departments bigger in Minneapolis and in St. Paul. So that's not a guy that's soft on crime. That's a guy that wants to make his citizens and constituents of his state safer. Huh. So bringing it into see, I got you. What?
No, he's failed in leadership. He hasn't used law enforcement the way that he should have because
he was too afraid. Because this isn't 1963. He's not Bull Connor. You don't just run the black and brown folks out of the middle of the street because they're angry.
I don't care what color they are. If people are committing crime, you have to crack down on crime.
Well, you don't kill them though. You do crack down, but you don't kill them.
No, absolutely.
Well, that's what y'all would have us do. No, let's bring in tonight's guests. Tonight's guests, if you've seen them on CNN, MSNBC, as AK commented, he had opted.
NBC Latino.
Not to mention NBC Latino and Telemundo. Mm-hmm. Yes, you know what? And I seen him just last week on my man. Oh, see now, of course I bring the guy up. How am I asking when he comes on? Louise, the other new MSNBC guy. Ballard. So you don't watch MSNBC. See,
I mean, I watch some of it, but not a whole lot.
You're a lame. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show because it's been a while, Raul Reyes. Raul, how are you, man?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you tonight, man. Thanks for being on. Good to be on.
Hey, thanks for being on.
Ballard, what's his first name?
Jose.
Jose. No, Jose is the bomb for real. He's very
Jose Diaz Ballard.
Yes, he's great. He's great, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful gentleman.
He is, man.
Great journalist.
Great journalist, man. And it's about the business. And you know what? And calls it down the line, honestly. He calls both parties out, and any political party, political person doing wrong, Jose calls it out. Raul, we're speaking about crime, and actually, you live in a state in a city where the loser, I won't even call him America's mayor, but Rudy Giuliani once had policies that again brought down the crime rate, but increased the incarceration rate for black and brown men with the stop and frisk things. So what I'm saying to AK is I think that we should have that dialogue about crime, but to me, it sounds like when Republicans talk about they want to be tougher on crime, it really does mean, as that dude say on that meme, hide your black folks, hide your brown men, hide your black men, because usually we're the first to be incarcerated and affected by being tougher on crime.
Right. Well, I can speak, from my experience living in New York these years, and during that era where he had the stop and frisk program, also under Bloomberg, and it overwhelmingly targeted black and brown people, and that's just specifically black and brown males. And so, I mean, that's the statistics bear that out. And in fact, we had instances where young men, like say between the ages of say 14, 21, they would be stopped like 6, 7, 8, 9 times for basically walking down the street or leaving their school, moving into their apartment. I mean, and the thing is that what the problem was, aside from what really was quite widespread racial profiling, is that people consistently saw in New York that say, if you had a group of white teenagers on the corner acting rowdy or acting up, maybe the police would come and tell them, guys, cool down and go home, whatever. However, when you're talking about young Latinos or young African Americans, they would be handcuffed, they would be face down on the ground, they would get a criminal record, they would get a court date. It was just wildly disparate treatment. And it actually, in my view, it didn't necessarily make the city safer. You had more arrests, you had more incarcerations, you had more targeting of these communities, of our communities, but it didn't particularly make the city safer. The violent crime rate did not spike significantly up or down during those times. It just made a significant population of the city feel unwelcome in our own cities.
No doubt about it. And because he's an hour here, we ain't gonna hold you. So we're gonna run through these questions because I don't want to hold you up late. Because I'm sure you got things to do in the morning. You wrote a great op. So wait a minute. So you did write a great op-ed, but when we talk about that stop and frisk too, and it being affected by black and brown men, I love MSNBC, and I've been watching. I can't remember the young lady's name. Paula, how do I say her name?
Oh, right. Paula Ramos.
Yes, Paulo
Yeah.
Ramos had a great piece, AK, on how young Hispanic and Latinos were, spiking towards the Republican Party or conservative party. What was it, Texas? Wasn't it Texas, where a very
Right.
blue area now has flipped red? And I seen the two young ladies that had been elected, and one that's running, and one that's been elected. Uh, and
Mhm.
honestly, that doesn't scare me or doesn't surprise me either, Raul, because black and brown folks are conservative in nature. So that's not a big surprise to me. But I don't think that will be enough still to put over a Donald Trump or even a bad Herschel Walker and
Right.
some of these racists nationwide.
Well, here's the thing that and I can't speak for the stats on the African American community, but our Latino community is very diverse depending on where people live, Florida, Texas, California, based on their gender or their religious affiliation. But you know what? Generally, when you look at the aggregate of our population, I think people are surprised that Latinos tend to be progressive voters. For example, when I say that, majority of Latinos want access to legal abortion in all or most cases. Majorities of Latinos want gun reform, more gun safety laws. Majority of Latinos think that do not. I think, and this is across all political affiliations. I think it's something like 72% of Latinos do not want Donald Trump to remain a political figure
Wow.
in the country. So Latinos generally have progressive positions. But what we are seeing, no doubt, is in some places around the country, for example, South Texas, also South Florida, where we are seeing like a shift towards the GOP. And I think the reason most people, whatever your affiliation is, I think most people agree on the reason, which I think you gentlemen can probably relate to as well in your community, is that people, when you have traditionally been aligned with the Democratic Party as a whole, what happens? The Democratic Party starts taking you for granted. So they don't invest in our communities, or they only show up a month before the election.
Mhm.
And so that's why some people in Texas, in South Texas, for example, the Republican Party has been down there mobilizing people and trying to get people to vote, holding rallies, stirring up a lot of interest in a way that the Democratic Party has not. I don't think it's necessarily going to swing Latinos to the Republican Party. But remember, in some of these swing states, Republicans only need to get small margins of Latinos to go their way
Yeah.
to win in
Yeah.
places like maybe Arizona, even Georgia,
Yeah.
in South Florida. So maybe they're not gonna, maybe they will never be the party that most Latinos like, but if they can peel away, 10% here, 15% there, that for them is a path for victory. And strategists and activist groups have been telling the Democratic Party this through several election cycles, but it just sort of not much has changed, I would say. So, Paula Ramos is on it when she says that there is this opening for Republicans right now in certain Latino communities around the country.
One of the I was going to say that, kind of speaking to this point that you're making, this larger point. Sometimes you've seen where Democrats will push through in their frustration, and this is, to me, an aspect of the ungratefulness that sometimes I see that the Democrats give towards the Latino population. Because, like you said, this is a very diverse population, right? Like I know when you use the word Hispanic or Latino, sometimes people are trying to put everyone in this like one pejorative, but I have El Salvadorian friends, I have Cuban friends, I have Puerto Rican friends, right? And then I have Mexican friends, and it's like these different sets of people all have a different kind of perspective of how they're living their life, and there's so many different diversity to it. But in one case, I saw that President Biden, he had this comment where he was like. You need to basically you need to get in line, otherwise you're not going to have any rights anymore. And it's kind of like, again, this like frustration boils over. But here's the way that I view this. If you're a person and you're involved in Republican politics, I think that it's healthy to get a new infusion of different perspectives. And I think that's what the Republican Party has been doing. This is a long game. I pulled up an article looking at polling, Hispanic polling for support of Republicans. And since 2012, support was pretty low. I know that Bush had some high support, and then it kind of went away again because Obama came in and he did a great job. And then starting it basically in like 2014, really Hispanic polling showed that they were drifting away. And so now I think it was at 21% had like favorable in this polling that was started back in 2014. The most recent poll is up around 33%. So again, they don't have a majority by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean that's a huge swing over the course of basically 8 years. And so I think that there's things that the Republican Party, in my opinion, can build on. Same as it goes with courting more of the black vote, is I think it actually makes a stronger party. It really does, and I think that's difficult for Democrats. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, you're an immigration attorney, and you had an op-ed in The Hill. And you wrote a piece that I think spoke to a conversation that people have had that I want to have, honestly, a more candid conversation with you about. But kind of the basic premise, if I can surmise, is that the rhetoric that you feel that is coming from Republicans about immigrants that have either came across illegally or are asylum seekers, that it's dangerous. And you cite a specific story of, I think you said it was two men maybe had shot and neither killed or harmed like a handful of people. And so I kind of want to ask you, like, where did that come from, that inspiration to write that opinion piece?
Well, because what happened, and this is based on reporting in CNN, the New York Times, is that there were two men out, one of whom was a former warden at an immigration detention jail. And they shot at one of them, allegedly shot at a group of migrants. One was killed, and a woman was seriously injured and taken to the hospital. So, that in itself, I mean, you can't have people for whatever reason taking vigilante action against other people. But one of the things that prompted me to write the op-ed about this is because I thought, what if this story had been flipped? What if you had two undocumented people who suddenly shot at maybe a sheriff or shot at an American citizen in their home and killed them? That story would be all over the news. It would be huge. For me, I didn't think that this story generated as much coverage as it might have had the circumstances been the other way around. And in this specific case, I don't want to get too much in beyond those, alleged facts and what we know from the affidavits, but I just think in a broader picture, it shows how rhetoric can get so racially charged that these types of things occur. Like we saw the massacre in El Paso, because that shooter was concerned about what he called the Hispanic invasion of Texas. Or we've seen racial incidents, these mass shootings in South Carolina or in the Pittsburgh synagogue. This is all stems, in my view, from a lot of the incendiary rhetoric that's just become, every day in our public discourse.
No doubt. And Raul, I mean, we know both parties politicize it. Democrats might use the immigration issue. I think that a lot of them are sincere about, seriously giving, granting legal access to these immigrants, especially the dreamers. But don't you think that, speaking of incendiary comments, that Trump brought in a lot of that, brought up a lot of that hate that a lot of these vigilante idiots feel, right? With the scare tactics, with all of the negativity that he would use when you talked about immigrants coming across the border, when seeking asylum is totally legal. It's absolutely legal. You can come across the border to seek asylum. Now, we can talk about the ways of going about it to, the process. We should definitely talk about the process. I don't think we should just I think 120,000, they're saying, a week or maybe a day that they're crossing the borders. And so it's becoming unsafe. Like the 5-year-old girl that died, was killed, not died, they was killed. But don't you think the Republicans make it even worse for even conservative folks to want to consider agreeing with immigration by those incendiary comments that they make.
Well, I think right now, because we're in an election year and the midterms are getting closer, to be blunt, for Republicans, I think everyone agrees our immigration system is dysfunctional.
Totally.
We have serious problems at the border with overcrowding and lack of resources. Everyone agrees on that.
Yes.
Fortunately, right now, this messed up status quo for Republicans, it's what they want,
Yeah.
in a sense, because this chaos and confusion that exists, that serves them politically. Like whenever immigration is in the news in some sort of way, that generally benefits Republicans because, for example, then they do not have to talk about the public anger about the Supreme Court ruling on abortion. And then they don't have to talk about, for example, Biden passing the Anti-Inflation Act, or they don't have to talk about what their position is on things like climate change. They can just go to illegal immigration and immigration, and that gets their base very motivated. So immigration, our immigration system, as broken as it is, it serves a function for the Republican Party of being a good distraction that serves them politically. But unfortunately, it doesn't, we don't get any closer to solutions.
Yeah, so I have a completely different perspective on it, and this is because I have conversations with conservatives. Myself personally, I am the son of someone that immigrated from Sierra Leone in West Africa, and immigrated the proper way, and came as a student, and then basically met my mother. And then again, at no point was his status ever revoked. And so me and my dad had conversations about this all the time. Here's the thing is that without, and this is our honest opinion, without having a definition of what a border should be and what the process is in which you seek a legal remedy, that our laws are not being upheld. And people that are conservative believe that the rule of law is one of the most fundamental, if you want to say, features of a society, and that once you lose that rule of law, that's when chaos starts to happen. Now, I'm a person, because again, of how I, if you want to say, my makeup, and my friends, and more specifically my family. I have a half brother that's in Sierra Leone, and I have an uncle that's again came over here and applied and became a permanent resident. So I understand the immigration system pretty well. But that's how I see it. Now, you might see the perspective that it's a good distraction, but there is a problem with our immigration system, and there's a disparate impact. There's a disparate view, I should say, of the way that we view things. Like today, there was an appeals court judge that ruled that the executive order on DACA, that basically it wasn't constitutional, but wasn't going to remove anyone that is currently an applicant or remove them. But that brings up this conversation about if there's a border and we have a process, even if you feel that your life is going to be better, that we have to have a process, because it does invite bad actors. And that's, to me, a truth that you have to be able to recommend. Do you have to demonize them? No. Calling it an invasion, do I think that rhetoric is a little bit inflammatory? I do think it is inflammatory, because invasion implies like it's a concerted effort. Like there's, people that are coming here, like even ones that are coming illegally, the vast majority of them want a better life. And I know that they want a better life. But I think that doesn't matter. I think that it still matters that they have to come through an actual process. So we have to figure out what's the best way to have that process, because there are bad faith actors that come through and people that have bad intentions. And that's my long-winded way. But I wanted to ask you, I did want to ask you, from your perspective, do you find common ground, or do you think that you can find common ground with Republicans on immigration? Is there any Republicans that you've worked with or talked to that you think have some ways to kind of bridge some gaps to actually do something?
I think there was a time when Republicans had more interest in it. Remember, the program that brought the most undocumented people into our country legally was through President Reagan, and George W. Bush tried.
We'll get back to Raul.
Recording in progress.
I'm telling you, boy.
2 weeks in a row.
Oh, technology, boy. No, but honestly, I think that
I'm on the phone with Zoom right now, guys.
When it's weaponized, and it's really not talked about, I think that's the point of the op-ed. It's the incendiary comments that are made about immigration that scare conservative folks to want to consider supporting it. Because again, seeking asylum is legal. How else do you seek asylum unless you cross the border? Let's talk about the process that people come over here that takes place to seek that asylum. It takes you 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But we should make them comfortable. We shouldn't demonize them. We shouldn't kill them. We should humanely treat them.
So the conversation I've had with a lot of conservatives that actually is the truth is the vast majority. I'd probably put that number at like for real, like 95% of Republicans that I've met are in favor of immigration. What they don't like is illegal immigration. And so
what is that? When did that ever happen?
It happens every day. Like the amount of illegal.
These folks come over to seek asylum, bro. They need a chance.
No. The percentage of people that are actually let's have some classifications. There's economic asylum seekers. That just means that you want to make more money, and that's not a good enough reason. You need to be like, hey, So
coming over here and contributing to this country.
No.
That's not a good enough reason.
To just cross
leaving
the
war-torn country isn't enough.
That's different. That's a different type of asylum, and we actually have a different process of how that works. And again, it's about what rule of law is. And here's the thing that I'm going to say as well, is that what the left doesn't do is they're not honest, because I've met plenty of leftists that say, why do we even have to worry about a border? What's a border? Like, if you come here, you should be able to do things. In D.C. today, they voted on a resolution, or at least it's been drafted, and I think it's like past its preliminary phase, that would give the widest amount of people the ability to vote if you've been in the D.C. area for 30 days, regardless of immigration status. And what I literally mean is that if you cross the border illegally, you were not an asylum seeker, and you can prove that you've been at a place for 30 days, that's how broad this D.C. draft of this resolution would be, to let you vote in the D.C. elections. Again, you can't vote in the in the federal, but for all of the like county commissioners and all that stuff, city council members, you'd be able to do that. And to me, that's a conversation that on the left they don't want to have, is that there is a percentage of people that think that it doesn't matter if you're an American or not. And I think that if we have that conversation, I can tell you why I think that's wrong. One, I truly think that people have allegiances to the nations that they are from. I think that that is an important thing. And if, as long as you have an allegiance to another nation, then you are not going to have the interest of where you are at always at the top of your mind.
What do you mean?
So like if you're from El Salvador, right? And you know all your family's in El Salvador, and all you're doing is sending money back to them. As long as you're getting the ability to make money, do you really care what's happening?
Are they paying taxes? Why do I care if a person loves the? Why does that matter?
Why they have allegiances to the nation?
Why does that matter? You got people from this country that don't have allegiance to this country with some of the shit that they do.
Yeah, but you can be conscripted to do things that you can't be from other countries.
I wanted to ask him the real number of bad actors they come across, which is probably 0.001 of bad actors. Sure. Most of them are families coming across.
Let's say it's as high as 3%. Okay. Let's just say 3%. That 3%.
You got that here in America in one state.
Fine, but at least you can track American citizens because you have a social security number.
Oh, stop.
Right? Like if you come across illegally, right? Like this is the thing, and you have to admit this. You know that when people are out there hustling, right? You're going to do things not above board if it's the path of least resistance, right? And so when you have this apparatus that is bringing people here to get across, because you got to remember, it's not easy to get across the border, okay? It's not.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So what they're doing is they're paying cartels, right? Or cartels are like literally
using them
and trafficking them, and they're forcing them to do terrible, horrible things.
Yes.
That is the problem. Like
it is the problem. So
if we could find a way to make that so that did not happen, that I think would be a positive.
Yes, that is a problem. Now, listen, I think that's what I'm saying. I think maybe if they stuck us in the room, we'd probably maybe come up with something,
Probably something better, yeah.
I think that's what the problem is. You got to sit down and talk. And again, when it's during a contested year like this, instead of just throwing out red meat things for your crowd, your particular sector of folks that you're shooting for, you should really have honest dialogue. Again, to say that walls failed, I mean, I need examples on how he failed. I mean, you say he didn't use the police the way he wasn't supposed to. I again go back to, how do you use the police you're supposed to? I mean, y'all say that about the border. There are border patrols there. They've been doubly enforced. In fact, President Obama had the most border patrol people there were. Then Trump came along and said that there wasn't enough. So he called himself doubling. He really didn't. So you add more. And then the fake wall, the half-ass wall that got put up. So that they scaled across too, right? I mean, let's keep it. So if we're not talking about it, then we're going to continue to see this huge problem. We got to talk about it, bro.
So couple of the big differences. So with Obama, the policy,
and he deported the most.
He did deport a lot. Yes, he was a deporter in chief. He also built the cages that the kids got put in that everyone blamed Trump for.
Well, he didn't build the cages. He brought them over.
I'm saying his administration is the one that put the cages in the place in the first place.
Well, he didn't put families in there.
But here, that's right. He did not.
No.
Right. He did not put.
Trump did that.
Trump did.
Yeah.
That but the point is that he
inhumanely put families in fucking cages like gorillas.
So that's the thing.
And put families in a cage in an arena. Huh?
You're keeping them together.
Oh, in a cage? What are they going to do?
Well, it's not that he wanted to use the cage. It's just, where do you put the people?
You leave them in the damn arena where they're at. You don't need. They don't need to be in cage.
So people can get sexually assaulted. Like that.
Oh, stop! They're inside. Guarded inside.
No, that's what was happening, man.
Oh.
So listen. Like there's these aspects where Obama had this belief, right, and with DACA, which he signed, his viewpoint on immigration was one that should be like, basically, if you got here and you're a noble person and you don't have bad intentions, like, what's the big deal? The problem with that mentality is that it signals to everyone else, hey, if I have good intentions, I should just find a way to get across the border, because that's what their immigration policy is saying, is that as long as I'm not a bad guy, I can go to America. And that creates, again, a problem of scaling, where now you have a demand of people that are rushing the border because they hear, as long as you're a good faith actor, you're going to be able to get in. But then again, our rules fall apart. Our law and order falls apart. And there is a question, if we say it's okay to not follow the law here, does that open up the door to say, well, if you know, I know you broke the law by coming to America, but while you're here and you're doing stuff, like, you've just kind of figured out, as long as you can get away with stuff, like, it's not that big of a deal. And I think there's that part of the conversation too.
Look, we need, again, I think it boils back down to the fact that let's have the conversation, period. Instead of, again, calling them bad actors, these are people trying to seek a better life. And I think when I hear Republicans say, this is a nation of immigrants, well, mean that, because it is. When we say that this nation was built on the back of immigrants, that's right. Black immigrants at first.
So again, this is part of that conversation.
And don't talk about legal immigration.
That's literally what I was
going to say. Don't talk about legal immigration, because it all wasn't legal. It all wasn't legal throughout the beginning of time.
There's illegal or criminal or alien, or whatever you want to call it. Again, to me, it's about rule of law. If you're going to compare it to a time in which there was not an immigration system that was robust, that's a different type of conversation.
Well, let's talk about doing something about the damn immigration system. Fix it. Stop talking about Republicans. Stop demonizing these folks and sit down. And come on now, seriously. That's why I guess I wish I was the Tippo well, I was born, but was more engaged in the Reagan Tip O'Neill days, when they got something done despite the rhetoric that you would stand on the House floor and say, or outside of it and in front of some. Well, actually, social media wasn't as big as it is now, so they didn't have that, right? Now you got social media and all aspects of it, where a particular candidate can go get his or her point out on the House floor, Senate floor as well, and then take to his or her Twitter page, Facebook, or whatever, and make their point even bigger, or gain more support from their rowdy followers. Yeah, I said that. I think that we gotta quit. Like when we talk about gun control, I don't know too many Democrats that screamed. First of all, well, I won't say none, but none that I know of. Let me say this specifically: none that I know of that want to take any guns away. We want to close the loopholes in certain, just like Keith Ellison's announcing today, the class action lawsuit.
Against Street Fleet. Against a fleet
so we both can't talk, right? Yeah. Well, yeah. When you look at how 2 people, 3 actually, but 2 people in particular bought so many guns in a month's time, AK.
Okay,
How does that happen? Don't tell me it didn't happen. He gave
happened.
proof.
No, like in this specific instance, right? The straw purchases that occurred. But here's the thing, right? By going after Fleet Farm, if you listen to his entire press conference, he's saying that Fleet Farm has this additional layer that they apparently need to scrutinize people that are making purchases of multiple guns. Okay, that's basically what Keith is alleging, is that they failed at actually holding customers to a higher standard. But let me ask you, what would that look like?
Well, again, I think that to me, if a guy or gal comes in and in a month's time,
so how many?
when a person buys more than 5 guns,
5
to me,
guns. So
I'm 3, but
fine.
5, I'm really the red flag is up.
If I could find you 100 people that bought more than 10 guns in a 3-month period.
No, in a 1 month.
Fine, but I'm saying if I could meet that criteria, and I could prove to you that far more people do it legally, because you want to know what's really funny? Everyone that I know that has purchased their first gun, it's like almost like a new addiction. Like they get really into buying guns, and then they go on like a gun buying spree. And so this is the problem: is that I think that Keith Ellison, I don't believe his intentions are pure. I think he wants to have a chilling effect on gun buying.
Good.
He wants these corporations to be afraid.
Good.
And to implement restrictions on how much they will sell to how many people.
Be afraid. You should be very afraid,
But
because if you're letting a guy buy
see how that's a
38
roundabout-
guns.
That's not wrong.
It is wrong,
No,
because
what if you
guess
wanna
what?
buy
One of the
38
guns that he know.
Yeah, in this case,
nobody's
that's the problem.
buying 38 guns
Yes, there
not sell
Yes.
them on the street.
There are
Any idiot that owns 38 guns, I want to check him or her out
You
too.
can sell guns on the street if you do it legally.
Oh, but this wasn't
Yes.
done legally.
No, but that's my point, though, right?
How is that your point when
That's my
he's
point.
saying to you
that doesn't
that the
happen
store
the majority of the time?
It did though. It doesn't matter.
I know, but because it happened and it led to someone actually dying.
Yes.
And I get that. They're coming down and saying, well, we have to stop this entire practice.
Damn right.
Right now, are straw purchases illegal? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Yes, they are.
I don't know.
Yes, they are illegal. Straw purchases are illegal.
I don't know.
So this is the thing what Keith is doing. He knows that it's illegal in Minnesota to do a straw purchase. Right now, if I know you can't legally own a gun, and I go and I buy one gun, okay? Let's say I know you're a felon, right? And you tell me, hey man, I need a gun, but I can't get it. And I go buy a gun, and you're not even at the store, and then I hand that gun to you. That's a straw purchase. That is illegal. You cannot do that in the state of Minnesota. That's illegal. So this is my point. That's already illegal.
Yeah.
What Keith is doing is he's trying to make corporations put restrictions on how many guns people can buy. And I think that is his intention. But he's not being honest. At least if he came out and said, listen, I think that people having too many guns is a bad thing, I would be like, hey, I still hate that you believe that because of the Second Amendment, but at least you're being honest and you're not lying to my face and trying to make it seem that you're just whatever. You're cracking down on people's ability to buy a gun because there was bad actors that already committed a crime, multiple crimes. 1, they committed a straw purchase. 2, they killed someone. like
they didn't, but that gun that they purchased.
No, that's what I'm saying. The person that told the straw purchase person or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is just the truth. Eric said you guys are so right on there. Figuring out how to fix the problem has to be part of the conversation. Right on, Jamar. Now, Eric, his great uncle is Dick Armey.
No.
Yeah, the Republican from Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so me and Eric, we've been friends since we were like little dudes. So what up, Eric? And Lisa's saying you can tell which one of you has never been on a construction site.
I don't know what she means by that.
Well, she's saying that there's a lot of people on construction sites that definitely come south of the Rio Grande Valley.
That sounds pretty racist.
No,
Is she saying that only Mexicans and Hispanic? Excuse me, Mrs. Trump.
We're talking about the immigration system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what the fuck she. Yeah.
And so, how did they get there?
Maybe legally if they're working there.
Okay.
How does she know?
I mean, statistically speaking, right? The whole thing is like Mitt Romney talked about this, if you remember. Okay. That there is
after he employed them.
Right, but fine. But I'm saying that there's an incentive, right, to hire people that you treat poorly, that you pay cash for, right? Because you now created a system to bring people in to mistreat them and basically create a second-class citizenry. That is actually a downstream thing that happens when people are not legal. And so this does go back to the question in regards to, like, when you create a system that has all of these loopholes that can be taken advantage of, the people that suffer the most are the people that are actually trying to do something. So I don't besmirch anyone that wants to come to America to make their lives better. And I believe that the vast majority of people want to do that. That still doesn't matter to me what your intentions are. We still have a process that you have to be able to use. And that's been my point. That's Republicans' point.
No.
For the majority of us, yes.
It might be yours, but not with some Republicans.
Some. You could say some. I mean, there are some people... Like we talk sometimes about culture war stuff, that if you assimilate too many people into one society that you change culture, that is a concern as well. But I'm more libertarian from that perspective. You don't own culture, right? So if a bunch of people want to come to the United States and they have different values and cultural set,
let them.
We are still a constitutional republic, and we still are a democratic institution. So if there's a large number of legal immigrants that come here, and it's by a bunch of people, and our culture shifts and it changes, that means that those of us that want to keep the culture the way it is, we did a bad job and we lost. And that's the free market. That's how it works. So things are going to change in a culture. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm not going to let this culture change. Like then fight back against it. That's what we do on the right, is, we call it like culture wars, is like we have to be able to have this conversation, but you can't force people to not change the culture. You have to convince people not to change the culture.
True, and if they don't want to assimilate to American culture, white culture, then we don't begrudge them for doing that. We let them allow. That's the great thing about this country, is when you come over here legally or whatever, when you assimilate to your own country, your own culture, good. That's the part about America that I love, because you can be you. You're free to be you. That's in the Constitution.
You're free to be you, and that's what my point is too. I think that Republicans have actually figured this out.
They don't like that, though.
No, I'm saying they're starting to figure this out. That's why they're gaining more non-white voters right now.
No, I won't.
Is their understanding is that the culture is changing, and that you have to be able to. You don't want to stagnate. Right. And so it's funny because I meet so many creators on TikTok, plug in my TikTok. I almost got 100,000 followers. What up? Like at 96,000. And I'm on a little 3-day banner now because there's haters that keep reporting my videos for no reason. But I meet so many different creators that come from so many different walks of life that are getting involved in the Republican Party, and it's bringing a different perspective. And I think that
Don't bless their heart.
I think that is healthy, because it ends up
they get ostracized.
Making things change.
They're not black, are they?
Oh, there's a bunch of black. Like,
right.
It's funny. Like, there's this dude, AJ's Rant Room, man, and every night, if you go into his live, it's like 6 people, and every single one of them is different black people, and they're like, there's this growing community of like black conservatives, and now they'll tell you to your face, like, I'm a conservative, I'm not a Republican, right? So it's like, again, I
love how they try to differentiate that.
There is one step closer, though. It's one step closer. They're not like, yeah, I'm not going to be a Republican. Because there's people that I think that are bad Republicans type of thing.
I still don't know the
Kim
difference.
said none of us are legal unless we are native to this land. Not true, because unfortunately for the people that had this land before America was established, they didn't have the power to enforce their laws, which is actually a very...
Because of the white man.
Fine, but they didn't have the power to
who stole the nation from them.
Exactly. Do you see how you're making my point? If you don't have the ability to enforce your laws, people will come in and take over, and then
they had laws, and
no, they weren't able to enforce them. Is my point?
Because white folks came in and tricked them and stole them and killed them.
I'll agree with you, even though I disagree. But for the point of this argument,
that's just the truth.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you. That's what our problem is we don't want the same thing to happen.
Oh, until white Republicans do it.
What do you mean white Republicans do it? I'm saying if the people that were here before America was established had the ability to enforce their borders and not allow a bunch of invaders in, then guess what? There wouldn't be United States of America. But because they could not enforce their borders, then that's what happened. And that's what we don't want to have happen.
Oh yeah.
I love America. I want to keep America, America. I don't want to be
because if we let all these people come in, next thing you know, we'll be eating tacos and drinking Coronas. Give me a break. No.
I'm not talking about tacos and Coronas. I'm saying that if you can't enforce your border and your laws, then you don't have a country, which actually proves the point for people that say that we're not legal because we came to this land. Well, actually, we took over and we became legal, and then we did what we did with the indigenous people that were here, which, again, this doesn't mean that I agree with it. I'm glad that it happened or anything like that. That's just the truth of the matter. If you can't enforce your borders, you get to write and say what is legal. If you have the power to control everything, you decide what's legal and what's illegal.
Even this white dude can't believe that. Hey, first of all, let's go back to thanking Raul Reyes for joining us tonight. You know, due to technology, you know, it happens, and so we'll have Raul on probably, hopefully, in the next week, because we got the mayor coming on next week. Not Minneapolis, but the mayor. If you keep trying and you keep trying and you keep trying,
you finally
win. Yes,
Mr. Winston Hollis.
Yes, he'll be on next week. So no, seriously, Raul is a great guest. I love him, an incredibly smart guy. I love him, and I always thank him for coming on for his time. And it was your first time meeting him, right?
Yeah, my first time meeting him.
Yeah. I used to have him on when I was on iHeart all the time.
I kind of warm up to new guests. Like Mary Moriarty, if you remember the first time I was on, I let her kind of get her point out. I didn't really push back a whole lot.
Oh,
then when she came out again, then I started pushing back more.
Oh,
so I think Raul's pretty nice dude. I probably disagree with almost everything that he believes from an ideological perspective, based off what he said. But
no, well, I mean, it's smart dude. We'll have him back for sure. And so, you know, again, guys, I think AK said it earlier that this show only works if you make it work. And not only just tuning in every Wednesday, 8:35, but contributions. Small contributions. Do us like Bernie Sanders. Contribute $15. And hopefully, you know, they'll make the account grow and we can pay these folks behind the cameras here and one of the greatest producers in the world.
we need to get some of that chicken scratchola, man. That's what we need. We need some of that chicken scratch.
Need some chicken scratch. Yeah, so anyway, thanks, Raul. Tonight, been a good night.
Yeah, make sure that you guys, again, hit the link tree, connect you with all of our socials, and it also gives you the ability to become a contributor. And we'll see you next week. I'm AK Kamara.
I'm Jamar.
Peace.
Stay safe.